Welcome to CB8 Speaks, a monthly program about the issues related to Community Board 8 in Manhattan, which comprises the Upper East Side and Roosevelt Island. I'm Monica McCain-Sanchez, a public member of the Community Board. And tonight we have as our guest Nick Viest, who is the president of the 19th Precinct Community Council and also past chair of Community Board 8.
Great to be here. Thanks, Monica.
Well, let's get started in explaining to the people watching exactly what is a Precinct Community Council and what does it do?
Sure. It's an organization that is sanctioned by the NYPD. It acts as a liaison between the community and the police. And what we do essentially is we hold meetings once a month. Our meetings are held on the first Tuesday, and anyone can come into the precinct and they can either voice concerns, if they have any issues that they want to raise in the community. Our organization allows the community to come in and tell us what's happening in the community so the command and also the officers can hear firsthand what the issues are. They know a lot of it, obviously, because they're out handling 911 and 311 calls, but it's a very good way of them getting that information. The other function that we have is supportive of the police in the sense that we recognize the importance of their job in our community, the risks that they take, and also the fact that they help so many people in our community. We're very lucky to have an excellent precinct with fine officers who are committed to making our community safer. And so we do a Cop of the Month award every month. It's our way of saying to them, we appreciate what you do, and I think is a very underappreciated job, especially I think recently you've seen, a change in the way communities are interacting with police. In my view, some of that is unfair. In our organization, we want to recognize, the really good job that the police do in protecting us. So those are really the two functions. And the 19th Precinct is 59th Street up to 96th Street, from the park, Central Park, to the East River. That's the precinct. So anything that happens in those confines is part of the 19th Precinct.
Well, I meant to say, you're actually in the precinct headquarters.
Yes.
I have to say.
Yeah, we're in the building.
How many times people walk back and forth from the, wondering, what is going on in there? And for the people who attend these meetings, you can actually see what is in this building.
Right.
And you said the command, so that includes the commander of the precinct attends these meetings.
Yes. Commanding officer of the precinct is almost always there unless there's something that takes the commanding officer away because they want to be there. The commanding officer gives a crime report to the public to let them know what's happening, and goes down the major crime index and gives them an update on homicide, on robberies, burglaries, grand larceny, assaults, things like that. What are the trends we're seeing? If there's some kind of scam out there, we'll go into that. We also have community affairs officers. We've got really excellent community affairs officers there and a crime prevention officer who are extremely responsive to problems. So if something comes up in the meeting, that person can go to those officers or to the commanding officer, can you help me? And they'll come back with a response, and they'll find a way to deal with the problem.
I have to say I've been going to a lot of the meetings whenever I can, and not only has the commander always been there, a lot of the cops are there. They're usually at least 15 or 20, so you get to say hello to them. I mean, because when they're on the street, they're always all business, and this time you can actually say thank you. And to your point, there was an issue, because I'm on the board of my building, and there was a street issue, and I could actually talk to one of the officers who, could help explain what they can do, and they actually made note to do a follow-up. So it's, sure. I think it's fantastic experience.
Yeah, and they have also NCO officers, which are neighborhood coordination officers, and they're assigned to sectors within the precinct, A, B, C, D sectors, and these officers really know intimately what is going on in that sector. And so a lot of times they're at those meetings as well. And so if you have an issue, you can bring it up there and they'll respond, and a lot of times they'll know what's going on and they'll be able to help with the problem as well.
That also brings up another program that the precinct does, Build a Block. There are meetings, I think it's every quarter of those sectors.
Yes.
And actually to find out about the community council meetings, Is there a website that the precinct has?
Yes. A lot of the information is on social media. If there's a Build-A-Block meeting, that's broadcast on social media, on Twitter and on Facebook. We're very fortunate to have an officer, a detective who manages our social media for the precinct.
Do you want to give him credit?
Yeah, Anthony Nuccio is just a fine police officer. And he manages Twitter and Facebook, gets that information out very quickly. It's one of the best Twitter sites that I've seen of any of the commands. And it covers really all the important stuff that's going on in the precinct. Get the Twitter feed for the 19th precinct and you're going to get the most up-to-date information quickly. Don't use it for reporting crimes or anything like that. If you see a crime that's happening or if there's immediate danger in any situation and you need immediate action, 911 is the number to call. 311 is for quality of life. But if there's an immediate situation, 911 is the number to dial.
And actually, at one of the community council meetings, I asked a question about, I see somebody littering. Do I call 311? Because I always assumed 911 was like someone's shooting a gun at you. And it was pointed out to me, no, 911 is when there is any crime in the process of being committed.
Yeah, there's something in process that's happening. And certainly if there's any risk involved at all, you dial 911 and don't hesitate. Don't second guess yourself. If you made a mistake and you called it for something that maybe didn't warrant it, that's okay. They're not going to penalize you for that. Because you really want to err on the side of caution when you do those things.
Having called 311 and 911, the operators are really trained well to question exactly the facts, and then they may bounce you to 911 or 911 to 311.
Exactly. And the thing with 311, people do get frustrated because they feel like they call it multiple times and they don't see action right away. But it's important to establish a record, because then that record can go back to either the community board or to various city agencies where there's a track record, and then they can take some action on it. So some of these things take a while. I would say sometimes, I get frustrated too, but it's important to log it in, get that on the record, and then there's a record that officials or community boards can take action on.
That is so important to call in, even if somebody else has called in. Just call and they need the records.
Right.
The Precinct Community Council recently celebrates 50th anniversary, unbelievably.
Right.
And so what was covered at that meeting was a bit of a celebration, but also how did the 19th Precinct Community Council and the Community Council program get started?
The 19th Precinct was a very early starter of the precinct councils. Our vice president was one of the original founders of that precinct council. We're very fortunate to have her, Kathy Jolowitz.
I want to thank Nick, Kathy, my community affairs team, my neighborhood coordination officers for all their hard work and dedication.
She put together, along with some other neighborhood activists, they put together a precinct council in response to what was going on in the community. New York was a different place in the 1970s. There were more crime-type problems in the 19th precinct. You even had some gang-related issues. And so there was a need for the community to organize and have a way to communicate to the police. And so she set that up with a number of other community members to have an organization that worked together. And then the council was able to get help with various people in the precinct itself, establish community affairs officers that would be responsive to the community. This was an evolution of policing in New York, so that essentially it was recognized that the community can play a valuable role in helping the police deal with some of the problems and issues that come up with regard to crime and quality of life.
We'll have some pictures up about, the cake that they had and some of the people that were there. In fact, you had the past commanders.
Yes.
5 of them?
I think there were six of the previous commanding officers were there. It was great to see them all, and I was fortunate enough to be on the council when they were there. And the 19th precinct has had outstanding commanding officers. Every one of them that I've worked with has been remarkable, in many cases under extremely difficult conditions. So they all came back for this 50th anniversary of the council. And I think it's a testament to how much they value the relationship with the community, and then also how much we appreciate everything that they do. And it's obviously not just the commanding officers. They will, every one of them to a person will say, they're only as good as the officers that work in their command, and then the community that supports them. You need all of that, I think, to be a successful police department, a community, and it really has to be responsive to the community. It was good to see everybody come out and show support for the council, but also show support, and also show support for the police, which is important right now.
And you managed to get a cop of the month in, and also, but there was also, people were bringing up their issues. It wasn't a party. It was a regular meeting.
And I would say we actually probably have more business kind of stuff in our regular meeting, because we did have a party. Some of that was probably, we spent a little bit of time with that, but mainly we were looking at issues that people were concerned about, and they raised them. And that's the purpose of the council. I mean, we're there to deal with whatever the issues are, and sometimes people aren't so happy with what's going on. We want to hear that. We want to hear if there's frustrations out there, and there are some, okay? So it's important that people have that means to get in and express what the issues are.
I think you start off with the commander speaking, only this time you had more speeches about the history and then got into the business of the precinct.
By the way, we start out every meeting recognizing we get up and hold a moment of silence for fallen police officers. It's very important to realize that this job that they do has risk, and they take risks so we don't have to take risks. So it's important to remember that. What we also do, we have a Cop of the Month award that recognizes important arrests and that officers make, and so we do that every month. And then we do a crime report so people can understand what's going on, and then we take questions on everything.
Speaking of a crime report, we were talking before we started this about what the stats are like, because the stats just came out today, I guess, for February.
They're updated actually even more frequently than that. So we get a report. I think the last one is through the 19th. I'll check what it says. But there's weekly updates. People can go online. If you Google crime stats NYPD, you will find the complete list of boroughs, precincts, and citywide crime reports. And they list the major crimes, homicide, robbery, rape, burglary, grand larceny auto, felony assault. Those are the major crimes, and they'll show year to date where they are. They'll show them for the week, they'll show them for the month, and they'll show them for the year, 2 years ago and 13 years ago. And then there's more historical. The NYPD does actually a very good job of chronicling what is going on, and then they document it. So there's a lot of good information to know what's happening there. But I can go on and check, like the 19th precinct, we're able to see, actually that last report showed crime was flat for the precinct versus last year at this time, year to date.
Now, also in the meetings, sometimes you've had special presentation. What types of presentations come in?
So we generally try to get speakers who are related to police matters. So that's one of the criteria that we have. And then what we try to do is to show some of the capabilities that the NYPD has, and also what our police officers do day to day. And then also highlight some of the important things to watch out for. We'll have someone talk about scams. We've had that. We've had someone from the DA's office come in and talk
You're going to
about.
have them back. You said last meeting.
Yeah, we're going to ask them back again, because that's obviously a topical item. And then we've had different units. The canine unit, okay? They bring the dogs in, And that's a great one. The animals are fantastic. They're incredibly well trained. There's a counterterrorism unit, which is important, very important, because New York is still a target. People, I think, those of us who have been around for a while do remember the attacks of 9/11, the attacks in the early 90s. New York is always going to be a target because of what it stands for and what it is. And so the NYPD has tremendous capabilities there to thwart these attacks. A lot of what happens isn't known. They don't get up and say, oh, we just thwarted this attack a lot of times. A lot of the work is done where they're able to prevent things from happening. And also, by having these capabilities, it's a deterrent. So it's very important to understand. I know there's people who feel, well, we shouldn't be spending money on all these things. Yet, if you don't have them, you don't have the deterrent to prevent it from happening. So it's a very good strategy in a way to try to prevent these things from happening.
I've been getting a lot out of the meetings, and I heard about the community council meetings for so many years, and I don't remember how I ended up going to the first one. But how do you get the word out for people to attend these?
So we used to just rely on a mailing list that we had. We don't do that as much anymore because we have social media. And then I have an extensive email list that we send out every month. And so we notify people through our email list, which has hundreds of names. We go on Twitter and on Facebook. The meetings are announced. So there's a pretty good way, and we found that that's generated good turnout. We get normally 40 to 50, sometimes 60 people, sometimes standing room only for the meetings. We've had very, very good turnout from the community, and we appreciate the community support for all of that.
How long have you been the president?
So I'm happy to say that it's 20 years plus that I've been involved with the community council. I started on the community council in 2000. And so it's been actually a very rewarding experience for me. And the role of president is really to run the meetings, to represent the council. So for example, if anything, communication happens where we have to talk to elected officials, that's what I do. My mother was actually involved with the council many years ago, and she was an auxiliary policewoman. And so I found out about it through that. And also there were some community members who I knew from the community board who approached me and said, Nick, this is an area where we think it would be helpful. There was a little bit of an infighting that was going on at the time. And I think also my vice president, Kathy Jolowitz, said, look, we want someone to come in, and we're very fortunate that we don't have this kind of infighting and that we work together very well, and that the meetings are done in a constructive way. We run these meetings, we think, according to a schedule, and also without a lot of sort of interruption back and forth. People can speak, but they have to raise their hand. There's order to it. We think it's a really good process for people to come in and voice their concerns.
Now, you've been bringing up the community board, but you are involved with other groups. What other types of groups?
I do some work with the Holy Trinity Neighborhood Center. I was actually very active a few years ago during COVID, a little bit less so, but I'm still on the board there. It does a lot of good work. Actually, what's really a nice thing is a Saturday supper for people who can't afford. It's a free supper. So that's the kind of stuff, help people in the community. We have events there, so it's kind of nice thing to do. We raised money through a fundraiser where I put together a band and got out and put a guitar on and played a few songs.
Actually, you bring up that Saturday supper because I volunteered a couple of times, and that is so unique in that you're not handing out sandwiches, but the people who are homeless or food insecure, can come in and sit at a table with a tablecloth and real silverware and talk to people.
Yeah, and full credit goes to the volunteers who come out to those Saturday suppers, coordinated by David Liston, who's been active on the community board as well. And it's a very good organization. And they're treated in a way that's respectful. Really a credit to the people who are part of that organization and also the people who come in every Saturday and volunteer.
That's a really important word that you just used, the respect that's used in that effort, and also the community council meeting. It is, and the way you ran the community board is with order, structure, and respect. So that seems to be a constant theme with you, Nick. Hey, we didn't talk about the street festival
Right.
that the 19th Precinct Community Council. Can you give a plug for that and tell people
Yeah, we do.
when
It's
and what it is?
It's a street festival that we sponsor every April, generally in April. And it raises money. That money goes toward, we actually use it for Night Out Against Crime.
Community coming out tonight against Clynes together collaboratively. I want to thank Nick, Kathy, my community affairs team, my neighborhood coordination officers for all their hard work and dedication. Like I said, this is all thank you.
Which is an event we hold every summer, and we bring in free food. We have a band. Sometimes I play the guitar for that as well. It's a really fun event, but that street festival helps us fund the activities and also to get some supplies that the precinct needs that's difficult for them to get through the normal process. We'll help out with that. And it could be like a battery that they need to charge, for certain requirements of vehicles that they have. It could be for bikes. We've gone in and gotten bikes. It can be for some of the either equipment stuff that they have there, some supplies, basic supplies. It just helps them do stuff, and it makes things a little bit easier for them. So then also the money goes for Cop of the Month plaques to recognize all the work that they do. And we can give out as many as say 2 or 3 awards, and we've done on an annual award, we might do as many as 12 or 15 of those awards to recognize what the police do.
Can you relate some of the more notable Cop of the Month stories, maybe the most recent ones if you can't go back too far, but I mean, there have been some amazing stories.
Well, yeah, an overview. We've had a couple where they've actually gone in and saved people's lives, given CPR to someone and saved a life. We've had some where they've prevented, there was several where they prevented a woman and a man from committing suicide. They acted quickly and intervened, and they're trained for these things. And so, those are really remarkable things that they do. Also, they've had some arrests where, there were guys out, committing burglary and robberies, and some of the suspects ran and hid under cars, and they found them underneath the cars and made the arrests. And they've gotten people who've assaulted some people on the street, and within minutes they've been able to make those arrests. Pretty remarkable stuff. The speed with which they act to apprehend people who are dangerous people, they get them off the streets very quickly.
There was one story a couple of months ago where it was several officers, and there was a special nighttime patrol, and they were just happened to notice somebody, the story I'm talking about, somebody who was checking doors, and they caught the person breaking into a townhouse. And they didn't say who was in that townhouse, but I mean, the people in the audience were like, can I say the name? That was the Robert De Niro.
Yeah, I don't think we publicized that.
No, you didn't.
But that was a story that I think ran in the Post or one of the New York papers.
But it was interesting to hear how this happened, that they were just doing a special nighttime patrol.
Yeah, they're really good at it. And these guys, they're out there all the time. And that's, I think, the thing for people to appreciate is how busy the precinct is. And sometimes, people will call the precinct and they'll say, well, it took a little longer to get here. Now in emergencies, they'll get there very quickly. The volume of calls that they get in a night, I mean, it's just hundreds of calls that come in that they have to deal with, and then they have to assign it. And the calls get responded to right away. I think maybe where the frustration is people say, well, can't we have officers out on the street to prevent some of these cyclist violations and quality of life issues? And those are very important issues, by the way, that the precinct takes very seriously, and they do commit officers to it. But they can't take away half the command and commit it to that, and then they're not able to respond to a 911 call where they need to get there right away. It's an emergency, a crime being committed. So that's the challenge they have, is how to allocate resources, and a commanding officer, has to make those calls. That's really a part of the role of what a CO does in a command like that.
That's interesting. You mentioned cyclists, because isn't that the top topic that's been coming up in the meetings?
It's a big one. It's e-bikes, illegal bikes, motorized bikes, a lot of them going the wrong way down the street, going into the motorized guys going to the bike lanes. Bicycles on the sidewalk is a huge issue. We've also had a lot of complaints about there's packs of these motorcycles, four-wheel vehicles that ride in packs up and down the avenues, very loud, a little scary if you're near walking into the street. There's a number of people who complain saying that this, they're scared for their safety. And so it's a bit of a problem that, the police are dealing with it. There are strategies, but it's also one which is frustrating too, because they don't want to just pursue some of these vehicles where they might go onto the sidewalk and injure someone. So they've got to manage this. They do confiscate a huge number of those bikes. Those are some of the quality of life complaints. We're getting still a lot of grand larceny issues, and there's concerns about recidivism. The officers make huge number of arrests in those areas, but unfortunately, because of the current system, a lot of these guys are coming out and still committing crimes after they get out, after they get released. And so you might have, last year we had, say, 40 perpetrators that were committing 400 of these grand larceny crimes, and they literally accounted for the increase in grand larceny crime in the precinct. Okay, so you can see why it's frustrating for the public and it's frustrating for the officers, because our officers are making the arrests.
Nick, we could go on forever. It's been great talking to you.
Thanks, Monica.
So thank you for joining us. And if you want to learn more about the community board, the 19th Precinct Community Council is not the community board, but everything is related in the regard of caring for the community. You can go to our website, cb8m.com, and you can see the calendar of events for the community board and see there's a link for past programs. And we hope to see you at a community board meeting.